welcome here today at Billy Boat Performance Exhaust. We are installing our Fusion exhaust system on here with the black tips. This is a 2024 ERAY Corvette. We first started by putting the jack underneath the car and raising it up to lower the rear wheel. You can take it off if you like. It's like 120 foot-pounds of torque to take it off. Or you can just raise it up, and then you can get to all the bolts that you need to drop down and start getting to the back of the car. All right, these two bolts right here are two T15s. One's on the top and one's down here below. The reason we raise up the tires, it allows you to access those, or once again, you can remove the tire. And then the last bolt that holds on this air duct is down here. It's a 7mm. We can take that off, and then we'll be able to take this off. And then here you have the 3 clips that hold it in. You just very carefully pop that out, and then this whole piece comes out. And then on the inner fender, you're gonna have another bolt right here, and then up to the left, one right there, and then you have the plastic sleeve right here. You have to remove these 3 so that we can pull this down and get the 3 bolts that are behind here, which I'll show you in a little bit. All right, these are the 3 bolts I was telling you about. 2 of them are 7mm, and then the nut at the very top is a 10. All right, if we were working on a regular C8, the battery would actually be located up here in the front, underneath the front trunk lid. But because this is an ERAY, it actually has a big battery down the center of the car, so we're not going to be unhooking it on this vehicle. But on a regular C8, you do want to unhook the battery before you start working on it. All right, you have to pop your trunk in the back, and you have these 16 bolts that you'll have to take off in order to start removing this. And then you have some bottom bolts that will take off too, and I'll show you those in a little bit. So when you're removing the back of the car, GM has put some of these black washers in there, and some of them have different counts. So when you're pulling it back, pull it back slowly and make sure you count and remember which hole that they actually go in. You might want to write it down because it does take a whole bunch of them, and some of them have none. So you want to remember exactly where they go. All right, now this is on the bottom of the car. You're going to have about 15 more bolts down here. Once again, back with the T15, and then the 7mm comes across the bottom right here. And then we get to the other side, it'll be the same thing. 7mm, and then the T15s right there. All right, we are now removing the bottom cover that covers the muffler. You have to remove it so that we can actually get the muffler out of here. All right, I have these 2 guys on the side. They're actually going to pull the bumper off. I'm going to be underneath the car. There's 3 electrical plug-ins that do your brake lights and your backup camera. So I'll be down there unplugging those while they hold it, and then we'll pull it completely off. So these are the 3 plug-ins I was telling you about. It has a double lock on there. You have to unlock it, push it back, and then with a small screwdriver, you actually have to get in, and there's another lock right there. Push it up, and then it should slide off really easy. If you're fighting it, you're not doing it right. There's also the small one over here, and then this other big one. Both the same way locking mechanism. All right, so this is the evap canister on the C8 Corvette, and then these are the bolts you have to get to when you push this out of the way. This is the nut up here, and these are where the 2 bolts go. On the regular C8, this is up closer, and this is much harder to get to, but it is still accessible. So that we can access the flanges on the exhaust system, we're going to take out the cargo net and the carpeting of the trunk. That will give us an access point that we can get to. Then we got to take that off, and then we'll have access to the flanges for the exhaust. This is the panel we're taking off. It has 15 more bolts on it. And we'll take those off and show you what it looks like after it's off. Now after removing all the bolts, this will come right off. And now you have access to your flanges on your exhaust systems. Your first flange, 2 bolt. On the passenger side, it actually has 3 bolts holding it on, and those are 13mm. And we did use PB blaster on both sides because these are lock nuts, so you don't want to run them dry. The top 2 are easy to get to. They're on the top. We'll get those out, and then we'll show you how we actually get to the bottom one. So to get to the bottom bolt on there, that's still a 13mm, you need swivel sockets. It'll make your life so much easier, and a really long extension. It's a lot easier with 2 people. I'm going to have my helper hold it onto the bolt up there while I wrench on it from the bottom so it doesn't come off and strip. So these are the actuators. This car is equipped with 4 of them. This controls mild to wild, which is your loud and quiet. It has this little red clip up here, and you just want to push it forward, and it unlocks just like so. And then you push down on it and then pull it out. If you don't do that, you'll break this, and then you'll never have a good connection again. On the rear end of the car, you have 2 exhaust hangers right here, and they both have 2 13mm bolts that hold them. You're not going to take them all the way out. We're just going to loosen them so it brings it down so we can get to the other wires on the other actuators that are actually located further up on the exhaust system. If you leave the rear hangers on, you can let it sit down, just let it sit there, and now you can easily access the rear actuators, which is your AFM valve, active fuel management, and once again, same exact clip. You're just able to pull it back, push it, and pull it right off. One on both sides. So located up here are the front hangers. They're still made out of rubber. We're gonna use WD-40. You can use any type of lube on there, but you spray it on there and it makes this way easier to pull off. Then after we pull it off, we are gonna actually take the factory system off this car. So these are the factory actuator valves. You can actually see them better now that they're out of the car. We are gonna be unbolting these and reusing them on our aftermarket exhaust system. It's just these 3 bolts on all of them. This does have a Heim joint that we will take off, and we will be reusing it, and we'll show you after we're done. So on the actuators, before you actually remove them completely, I always mark them. That way you make sure that you're putting them on the same exact spot on the other system. So by using it, I use a gray Sharpie so you can actually see it. So I'll be marking this one DR. And likewise over here on the AFM valve. And then on the passenger. When you get to this point right here, it has a pin on here, and you can just use your fingernail to get it. It pops off around the side of it, and then it pulls out. And then that allows you to pop this right off. And then you're able to take the actuator off. And you're gonna wanna take this off the valve too, because you are gonna be reusing this piece right here. So right now he's installing it on our system. We supply all the nuts and bolts to put it together. We do put a washer on just the tip valve, not on the AFM, right underneath, as he's doing right there. It gives it a better spacing between the two of them. And then we'll tighten those up and we'll be done with the tip valve. Okay, so I'm getting ready to put the Heim joint back on. I do put a little bit of anti-seize. The factory one still has some on it, but ours is nice and clean, so it does not hurt to put any anti-seize on it. I already have the locks off on here. And just like when you pop it off, you just pop them right back on. And then you put your locks back on. It should operate just like so. On the passenger side now, doing the same thing, using the same Heim joint off the factory, and just put a little bit of anti-seize on ours. Just helps keep everything lubed up. All right, this is our C8 Fusion. And on here, we got the actuators back on it. And we actually infused heat shields on ours to actually protect the bottom of your car. As if you see on your factory one, it's covered with heat shields, so we try to mimic the same thing to keep the heat out from underneath your car. And we've done pretty good with it. You can't see it, but underneath here is our X-pipe. And these are our PRT cans, so it's quiet when you're cruising, but yet gets aggressive when it's loud. Also, you still keep your function of your mouth wild. So when this valve is open, most of your exhaust is gonna come out of here and be loud. And then when it's closed, most of it's gonna come through your muffler and be much quieter. So now we have the first part of the system in. We only have the bolts kind of started. We want the looseness of them so that we can actually move them out for us to put the X-pipe in. If you tighten them up already, you're not gonna be able to do that. You'll have to loosen them back up. Also at this point, while everything's loose, it's easier to plug in all your actuators back in. So we supply this is a heat shield wrap, and you'll peel it back off right there, and then you'll put it on just like so. You'll wrap it around the wire, and then stick that part over it. It helps protect it from the exhaust heat. The other side does not need it. All right, now we're gonna install the X-pipe. And that's how you get the X-pipe on. As you can see here, now we have the X-pipe installed, our tips on, the clamps are on, they're rotated up, or they're nice and hidden, and you just want them snug so everything kind of stays there, because we have to put the back of the car on, and that's when we'll do the final adjustment on the tips, and then we'll tighten everything up. If you tighten up everything now, and it's not straight when you put the back of the car on, you're gonna run into issues. All right, we got the exhaust flanges all tightened up and everything now. Now we just start putting everything back together. Make sure that this gets in there tight. This does have a seal on it, so make sure you tighten everything down evenly because it does protect you from gases getting inside your car.
Hi guys, Billy Boat here from Billy Boat Exhaust. We're finished the install on the C8 ERAY. If you have any questions, feel free to email us directly, info@bbexhaust, or my personal email, bill@bbexhaust. Answer all your questions, take care of you. Now let's go fire this thing up and let's see how she sounds.